right, and welcome to Across the Bar podcast, where today we have a dear friend, Chief Warrant Officer, not one, but two in the United States Army, as well as, call you police officer? Officer.
There you go.
Mr. Ryan Williams, man. How are you doing, brother?
Good, man.
It has been again too long.
Way too long.
So I have a couple of memories of you that are very, very, very fond memories.
Same.
One of the funnest times of my life, if I'm able to say this. Remember when we went to go see Katy Perry together?
What year was that?
Dude, I don't know, but it's whenever firework fucking blew up. Yes, because I remember whenever we drive somewhere and that would be on the radio, because baby, you're a fire.
Yeah.
Three army dudes, myself, in a truck, Katy Perry blurring, and freaking singing at the top of our lungs, man. That has to go down in history. And I'm sure you don't tell most people that story, but now it's actually
I do.
You do?
It's one of my fondest memories too. And at the time, Charles, he was like a biker pretty much at the time.
That's right.
He was yoked up. So we had this big biker dude, two military guys. I hope this isn't an offensive term, but kind of like a hipster.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and
okay. No, I'll take it.
Okay.
I was definitely into craft beer a lot back then. Yeah. You guys used to always make fun of me. It's like, dude, if you were in the Army, I'm pretty sure you'd be like the writer or something that writes novels about.
Yeah.
Or the photographer.
Remember that young girl that was sitting in front of us that kept just awkwardly.
Like, what is going on here?
Yeah. Like, what are these guys doing here?
But you know what, though? I feel that our saving grace was, I'm not sure if you remember, there was an older dude. I mean, he had to be in his 60s or something like that. Yeah. And just like dancing his ass off, like, baby, you're fine. We're like,
he's the weird one.
Yeah, he's a weird one. Us is just four dudes going to watch Katy Perry.
Yeah.
You know, at least she's hot. You know, we have an excuse. But yeah, she looked at us like, what is going on here? Did somebody put them up to a bet that their daughters just like cancel on them? But no, we love Katy Perry.
Yeah. Do you know that's the first night? And this is one of my other fond memories that you introduced me to pho.
Oh, no way.
That's the first night I ate pho.
Wow.
I'd never turned back.
Oh man, we got to go back and revisit that and see why that's the case. Cause you're a grown man.
I mean, I grew up eating top ramen, but not pho.
We'll definitely get all into that because I definitely want to know about you growing up. So my buddy Charles, or our buddy Charles, he always calls you Captain America. Why? Because he says that you're a super soldier, right? Because you're always fucking just getting new certifications, or you're just always doing new shit. Like, what are you doing? Are you still in the Army? Like, are you? Is it reserves or what is it?
Yeah, Army National Guard.
Okay, National Guard.
So I'm actually a Blackhawk pilot in the Army National Guard, and I've been doing that for the last going on 5 years now. Because my daughter's gonna be 5, and she was born at the tail end of flight school.
Weren't you like a paratrooper or something like that? Cause I could have sworn you were jumping off of fucking helicopters.
No.
Okay.
I flew the helicopters while other people jumped off of them.
Okay, you're the smart one. You're like, I'm not doing that shit.
I'm gonna stay on board. Yeah.
So yeah, man. Like, when did you start your career in the Army? Yeah, in the military.
Yeah. So what is it? We're in March right now. So
yeah,
in May I'll be 15 years. I joined in 2006.
Fuck.
I know.
Fuck.
2006. I joined in 2006, and the whole reason I joined is because I graduated.
This is always my favorite part because everybody that I've talked to, for the most part, it's always like some random shit on why they joined, why they enlisted. Like
everybody, you hope for that, like a family legacy or a duty to my country. Yeah. But not so much, so for me, I graduated high school. I went to UC Riverside.
Okay.
And my
Oh, you went to college in UC Riverside?
Yeah, well, yeah, I did my first 2 years there.
Oh, okay.
And in that first year, my vision was to get some type of job in business. I was going to major in some type of business because I thought business makes money, and I want to make money because I grew up poor. I want to make money, and this is probably the route. And went through that first year. I did the FAFSA. Nobody at that point had gone to college in my family, so luckily I was an AVID in high school, which was like a college prep type of course.
Yeah.
So they helped me get the FAFSA filled out and all that. So I thought, I'm good. I'll get grants and loans, and it'll all be paid for, and we'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
And at the end of that first year, they still sent me a bill. How the hell am I supposed to pay this?
Yeah.
And I was even working at the time at nights at UPS, and then later FedEx. So, working nights, sleeping a couple
Were you doing
hours.
like stocking and things like? I mean,
I was doing the loading and unloading. And they still sent me a bill, and I was like, I can't do this for 4 years. I won't be able to afford it. And so I maybe I need to join the military to pay it. And I reached out to a buddy of mine who was in the Guard, and he linked me up with a recruiter. And I show up there, and he's like, well, there's 4 different jobs right now that are offering sign-on bonus, $20,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, truck driver, combat engineer, military police officer.
This is in the National Guard?
Yeah, for the National Guard. And I forget what the other one was.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, shit, I guess out of those, I'll be a military police officer because I don't know anything about engineering and I don't want to drive a truck.
Yeah.
So I took the test, and I'm thinking I'm going to go to basic training, military police school, come back and finish school because that was the point was to pay for school. And then they got me hook, line, and sinker because I go to basic training, MP school, come back, and then off to Iraq.
No way.
Maybe 6 months later.
But I mean, it was supposed to just be like a temporary thing, right? So how did they convince you?
Well, no, but I mean, so I was thinking, okay, I'm going to join this thing, and I'm going to go 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. I'll finish
and for
school.
$20,000, great. And you had to pay for your shit.
Too easy. But this was I graduated basic training in AIT probably 2008, so we're still in the thick of things. Yeah. With those, Iraq.
So that's right. So it's not like you were just like, oh yeah, no, I'm never gonna go. What are we gonna do? Be in a war? Yeah. No. So it was already. Yeah, you were already going on.
Yeah. So right away, I go out there. So the whole point was to pay for college, but that got put on the back burner because now I'm gone. I'm deployed. Come back. So
were you scared?
Yeah,
because one thing's to enlist like when there's like nothing going on, but I mean you already start hearing about all the shit, fatalities and all the crazy, mortars and.
I think when you're that young though, you don't really, you're
How
invincible at that time. Let's see, 2008.
19, 20?
I was about 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20. So you're like, not me.
That's wild.
Yeah. So it put school on the back burner, but that's what kind of led me moving forward to my career in law enforcement. Is I chose that military police officer spot just because it seemed the most suitable at the time, even though I never had any intent to be a law enforcement officer. Yeah. And then I kind of enjoyed it, and I said maybe this is the path I want to take.
So like when you're a military police, who are you policing?
So that's the funny thing about that. Like if you're an active duty military police officer, you're providing police services for military installations. So if you're full time and you got for example, I went to flight school at Fort Rucker, Alabama. So the military police officers will provide police service for that base. So if you get a call of domestic violence in the barracks or something, they're the ones that are going to go investigate. Being in the National Guard though, you don't really provide police service for anybody. It's more or less training during drill weekends during the summer so that when you get deployed, and our task was always called warrior police. There was garrison police and the warrior police. Ours was a warrior police type of training for deployment purposes so that we would train to do, when we were in Iraq, our mission was to train the Iraqi police forces so that when we left Iraq, they could...
Yeah, they can take over.
Take over, yeah.
And then when you're in a base and you're the military police, are you kind of like running, I guess, the security for it, like making sure that the right people go in and out, right? And then handling like I guess calls of some drunken freaking army dudes that are just wrestling, doing arm bars on each other.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, so that's what the active duty military police officers do, which has got to be like I've never done it on the active duty side.
Yeah.
But that's got to be a tough job, an interesting job, because the people you're policing are your peers.
Yeah.
Right. So you're kind of like trying to find a balance. And
I wonder how much of the like. No, just keep it going. Yeah, let's see how this plays out. We'll get involved when it gets a little too far. But at this point, whatever. Just let them fight or something.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Yeah, even on the civilian side, sometimes you just have to assess the risk.
Yeah, I bet.
Like, yeah, sometimes you're always there to help victims, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it's not a real victim.
Yeah.
If you got two people fighting and you jump in,
just like,
sometimes they turn on you if it's two buddies fighting and you go to break them up, and then now they're like, "Who are you?"
Yeah, this is good. By the way, we're gonna have beers off of this. We just gotta knock this out.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of going on a little bit about your background. You said that you were poor. Where are you from? Like, let's talk a little bit about that. So, are you originally from Los Angeles or California?
From California. I was born in San Bernardino City at St. Bernardine's Hospital. And I grew up mostly in Fontana and Bloomington.
Oh, wow.
You familiar?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
One, that's far from LA. Two, at least as far as I know, it's pretty sketch.
Yeah.
The reason I know it, and dude, when I was doing a band, this is like back in early 2000s, I was looking for a drummer, and it was just like really hard to find like a really good drummer. And this dude sent me a demo, right? And I was like, whoa, this guy's so fucking good. And he's like, yeah, dude, I got a garage. I have all equipment. And this is when I was broke. I was like, oh, do you have an amp? Because I have a guitar, but I don't have an amp.
Yeah.
Like, who has a band without an amp?
Right.
It's so funny. Actually, just on a side note, whenever you go to places and they're looking for band members, a lot of the times when they're like, oh, looking for guitarists or looking at this, they put like a little asterisk saying must have equipment.
Right.
They're talking about me back then.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, cool. Yeah, let's start a band. Do you have a guitar and an amp that I could borrow?
It's like
being in your band.
It's like in the police department or the military. Anytime there's a policy,
it's
because somebody.
It's because somebody.
So you're the asterisk.
Yeah, I'm
the
totally
policy.
the asterisk.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, dude, that's awesome. He's like, yeah, dude, I got all this shit. Just come through. And it was in Fontana. And I just remember like driving, like, holy shit. And we're supposed to do band practice 3 times a week. Fuck yes, because he has equipment.
Yeah.
But it seemed pretty rough.
Yeah.
It seemed pretty rough.
What was his name?
Like Eduardo or something like that. I don't know.
Because I have a buddy who's a drummer down there I thought you were talking about him.
Dude, I mean, it'd be kind of crazy, but I could see that happening in Fontana where there's like
small town.
Yeah, it's small town. I grew up in Mexico, but then like when we came here, I lived in LA, and Fontana is very much not LA. How did you guys end up there? Did your parents or grandparents like live there or?
It's funny. I don't know a lot about my parents' past. Like, I think growing up, we didn't have like a strong communication. And
did you grow up with your mom and dad or?
There's an interesting story. So I grew up at the age of 4.
Do you need tissues? Because I can grab them.
No.
Okay, good.
No. So at the age of 4, my parents separated because my dad cheated.
Okay.
And then he's with this other woman.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're 4 years old?
And I'm 4. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't really know at that point I don't really have a lot of clear memories about that time.
Okay.
But a little bit later on.
Hold on. So, was it one of those things like did they tell you what was going on or?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember. Yeah.
Or just all of a sudden dad wasn't around?
Yeah. So but then later, when we were living in Bloomington, a tiny little apartment.
I don't even know where Bloomington's at.
It's a tiny little town, kind of encapsulated in Fontana.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because there's county areas of Fontana, city areas of Fontana, and there's a little.
Is it like what's it called, like a municipality or something like that? Like in Long Beach, we have Long Beach, but like in the middle, there's Signal Hill,
Right.
which is its own little city
Yes.
within Long Beach. Is it something like that?
It sounds, yeah.
Okay.
So we're living in this little apartment, and I don't know how.
It's you and your mom.
Me and my mom and my brother,
Okay.
and then for some reason my dad has to come move back in there. So I'm living with my mom, my brother,
And now
and
your
me,
dad's.
my dad and his new girlfriend.
Wait, what?
Yeah. But to
What
me at
in
the
the
time, it was like,
fuck?
it was just normal. Like this, I don't know any different, right? So it's just
I mean, well, yeah. I mean, it's not on you at all. I'm
really weird looking
I'm
back.
trying to figure out like your mom, like
Right.
what made this okay.
It was probably monetary reasons. I think she probably couldn't afford. To,
Oh, uh-huh.
So maybe him offering to like, hey, we need somewhere to live, and we're gonna pay the rent and buy the food or whatever, and maybe
It just sounds really weird because it's like, because that was going to be my question. Like, oh, if it's monetary, that means that, your dad would be paying for stuff. And they're like, oh, why wouldn't they just get their own place?
yeah. So
It's like,
honestly, growing up, I started to get, being that young, I started to get inklings of what did my dad do for a living,
okay.
and I started to piece the puzzle together as I got older.
Mm-hmm.
That my dad's a drug dealer.
Oh,
So he didn't probably have the credit history.
credit
or
history, employment, like all that
to
stuff.
buy a house and needed somewhere to be. And so I think that's, and to say piece it together. So like,
Yeah.
there were several times where I'd come home from elementary school. My elementary school was right up the street. Come home and one of the neighbors would flag me down. Hey, come over here. Because my parents were both in jail. So they got arrested.
Your
while
mom and your dad?
yeah.
So I'm assuming that it was one of those things like, hey, let us live with you. We're going to take care of it. And you're struggling financially. I think we can help with that.
Right.
Gotcha.
And my
Okay.
mom was drug addicted at the time as well.
Oh, really?
Right.
To what?
Meth.
No, this is what year?
So
Wait, what
this
year?
would have been probably
90s?
Yeah, mid 90s.
Fuck, man.
Yeah. So I'd come home sometimes.
Did you know that? Like,
No.
okay.
And I don't know. As a kid, I guess.
Like, was your house super clean all the time?
Super clean at that time? It was probably normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like television's taken apart. It's like,
No. Yeah. I don't know. I guess
Yeah.
you don't notice as a kid.
yeah.
Like that's just
that's not where your mind is at.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
just mom or that's just how she is or dad or whatever.
Yeah.
There was a time I came home and they were gone, and then my dad, if you saw my dad, you would think he looks like one of the guys that work with you. He's a computer nerd.
Okay.
He always has been. He's always been super into computers. Just a kind of a nerdy looking guy.
Yeah.
But all the friends
Thanks,
would no offense.
That would not be the first time that you told me.
I should have
been
opened
called
up
a
with-
hipster, a nerd. All right, keep going.
I should have opened with
Yeah.
no offense. No, but but all his friends that would come over were like bikers, big burly biker guys and everything,
Yeah.
And I remember one time we came home and they were gone. They were in jail. One of his friends came over, big dude. Me and my brother were in karate classes at the time. You know the blockers? They're like those. They got the plastic bat and they got this foam pad so you can swing it and then
Yeah. Mhm.
So we had one of those up in my dad's closet. They're gone. So this guy shows up and I see him come in the house and he pulls our karate blocker out of the closet. He takes the cover off. There's a slit cut in the foam pad. Pulls out a big wad of cash out of there to go bail my dad out.
Fuck.
And I see it and I'm like, holy fuck, there was money in my... I wish I would have known.
Yeah.
Like weird stuff like that.
How old are you at this point?
Probably like 6.
Oh my God. Okay. Fuck.
Yeah. There was a time at that same house, me and my brother, we used to have to sleep on the pullout couch because it was a 3-bedroom. My dad and his girlfriend were in one room. My mom was in the other.
Is your brother older, younger, same?
He was older.
Okay. Like a lot older? Or?
2 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's 8. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were sleeping on the pullout, and one night my mom, all of a sudden we feel something fall down on the bed, was my mom, and my dad had moved out at that time, just prior, and my mom's hands are duct taped, her mouth is duct taped, her feet, and people had come in, burglarized the house.
Because you have money.
Yeah, duct taped her all up. We slept through it, and she had to hop out after they left and fall down on the bed so we can take the duct tape off and she can call the cops. Yeah.
Do you remember stuff like that? Like as in.
Yeah, like, it's funny because I always had this like memory of that happening, and always
was it weird to you then?
I don't know. Like, I think it was one of those like repressed memories that I started remembering later and think, did this really happen?
Yeah.
And that I finally asked my mom about, was this a real thing? So yeah.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
But you were saying, okay, sorry, I interrupted you, but you were saying that both of your parents were in jail, and then somebody reached out to you guys or something like that?
No, like it was a couple of times, a few times where we would show up from school and then be going over to the house, and then one of the neighbors would be like, oh no, come over, because nobody's home. And they know that my parents got arrested. Yeah. So they'd bring us over to their house until they can get bailed out and come back home, and then we can go.
And so that wasn't like overnight. It was like, or was it overnight? Was it like a week?
No, it would be like the same day.
Was it always the same neighbor, or was it like just different people?
No, it was different ones. Yeah, different ones.
Really?
Yeah.
That's tough, man.
Yeah, but
do you what's the longest that you ever stayed at a neighbor's house?
I think just like a day.
Really?
They'd always get bailed out same day. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And did you? I mean, was that like your life, like through high school and all that stuff, or did it ever stop? Or
no? So my dad was also very physically abusive to my mom, even after they weren't together anymore, but just in the same household.
And at this point, like, is the other girl still involved? The other lady?
Yeah.
Okay, and she's like, whatever, like this is normal.
Yeah, sometimes she
would get it too.
Abusive too. Yeah. Like, and so one time, finally, I think my mom had enough. And when my dad and her were gone, my mom finally we packed everything up.
Said pack it up?
Yeah, and we just left. Yeah.
Did you know that was going to happen? Like, was it one of those things like, hey, get your shit now, like, we're leaving?
I don't remember. I just remember being relieved, because it was uncomfortable for me to see all that and to live like that. There was times where when he was getting abusive, my mom would just take us and we would leave somewhere, but nowhere to go, really.
Did they try to hide that stuff from you? Or it just didn't matter, like, hey, this is happening right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so did your dad try to, like, find you guys? Or because a lot of times that happens, right? Where, mother of your kids leaves, and then the guy's like, no, I need my fucking kids back.
We didn't.
Did you guys have that kind of relationship where like, no, those are my sons? Or
we didn't leave that far. My mom found a different place for us that she was on welfare, but she found a place that she was paying with on welfare. And it was probably literally a mile away, a mile and a half, but it was just having our own space away from that. And so he knew where we were the whole time. It wasn't like we were trying to hide from him, but just trying to separate ourselves.
Yeah.
And when I say this, I don't want, like, I have a great relationship with my dad now. And he has his own business now where he does like a construction business.
Yeah.
And but just at that point in our lives, we needed to be away from.
Yeah, because I'm picturing like, especially when you said didn't move so far away. I'm like, oh, this is Fontana, so it's like, I mean, this is the 90s, so I'm thinking like, there's one Lucky's grocery store, and like,
right,
they're both there. Like, oh, this is awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were still in Fontana.
Yeah.
And so my dad was still there. Growing up, he was mostly there like monetarily.
Yeah.
When we needed school clothes.
Yeah.
Things like that. He brought Christmas presents all the time, but like, that was the extent of it. Mostly growing up.
Did it ever get better?
In like what aspect?
The drugs, first of all.
Yeah.
And then, did the abuse stop there? Just like not living with each other, kind of like resolved all that?
Yeah. Yeah. So my mom, I don't know exactly at what point she quit drugs.
I wonder if there was like a moment, because especially like with things like meth,
Yeah.
it's not the easiest thing to kick, and it usually takes like a pretty good scare.
Right.
She's
talked to me a little more openly recently, and I'm sure she'd be even more open if I dug deeper into it, but I just haven't. But in like,
because you assume it's probably like hard for her as well.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Or just uncomfortable to talk about. But like, she's spoken about like being pregnant and quitting during those times, which thank goodness. And then as soon as, we're born, back onto it, and being frustrated when we're babies because we're crying and like, oh my God, I just want to go get high again. Why are you still crying? Like things like that.
Did you end up being, or did your brother end up being kind of like a caretaker for you? Or did you end up kind of like just start being really independent, like doing shit for yourself?
Yeah. So me and my brother took totally different paths. So he was an addict also.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So he struggled his whole life, kind of the wrong friends. And
this is like in high school?
Yeah.
Around that times.
Yeah. So
it makes sense, right? That would happen.
Yeah.
Seeing like the environment.
I think I'm lucky that he probably was old enough to understand more of it than I was at the time, and it probably had a bigger impact on him because I think
like you being oblivious to it was probably like a good thing, right?
Yeah, and I think him being able to understand everything that was going on when it was in the thick of it, when we were all living together and everything, probably affected him more.
I'm so glad you didn't bring up this story during Katy Perry.
Yeah, would have ruined the whole night.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But no, it's super fucking interesting especially because of where you're at now and all that stuff. Now, like when I asked, like, did it ever get better and stuff like that? Like she quit. Like, what were you like a teenager during that time, or
when
she stopped like using and stuff?
So she was on welfare while we were living at that other place for a long time, and like I said, I'm not sure when she quit. Now I have the ability.
Was she working or
no?
Okay,
no, she was on welfare, and then welfare at that time started getting a little bit more strict on making people go to job club where they had to get training on how to do interviews. They'd give you vouchers to go get to Ross and get clothes for an interview. They give you bus passes, and they were real big on like, hey, show us all the jobs you applied for this week, and so on and so forth. So she was doing all that. And then she had got a job at the courthouse where she was kind of volunteering her time. She wasn't getting paid. And then she stopped doing that because it's like she was getting the same amount of money not doing it, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But she ended up getting a job at the job club and getting paid. And so she was working with the people that were in her position.
Yeah.
And then she moved on from that, started going to school. And then me and her graduated Cal State San Bernardino together. We walked.
Really?
Yeah, we walked at graduation the same together.
Were you happy the turnaround?
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
Or was it weird? Like, because you gotta, you're in high school.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like it's still kind of like.
Well, by the time I graduated, we graduated Cal State San Bernardino, got our bachelor's degree.
Oh, never mind. Oh shit. Yeah. Okay. Oh no, that's really cool.
Yeah. So we were at because I did my 2 years at UC Riverside. And then I took a bunch of time off for the military stuff and everything. Then she started going to school. Then I came back, transferred to Cal State San Bernardino because now I said, I don't think I want to be a police officer. So I transferred over there and got my degree in criminal justice while she was getting her degree in social. She's a social worker now. So she got her degree in social sciences, and we graduated together.
This is obviously probably questions that should go to your parents and stuff like that. But like, I'm really curious about, because the lifestyle that you just described, it doesn't usually end the way that it doesn't usually go the way that
Right.
she's got a college degree and like your dad has a business. Like, you don't usually go from like drug dealer, meth to like success.
Right.
I'm just still wondering, like, I wonder what it was that really kind of clicked in.
Yeah.
Did you, were you like teasing in school? over any of that stuff? Like, we're like, oh yeah, like Ryan's parents, like, yeah, they're crackheads or shit. Like,
I don't think anybody ever knew.
Really?
No. Yeah, no, I don't think anybody ever knew until we started getting older, and then I started to figure it out. And I remember a friend of mine that I had for a long time, and he was like, hey, can I ask you something? Or can I say something? And this was after we were far, beyond. I was already graduated high school, and he lived in the same area where my dad did. And he was in this friend of mine that I'd known since I was in first grade.
Okay.
He went down the wrong path and cleaned up, but he had done time in prison and everything else. So some of the friends he still had were kind of sketched to in the Fontana, Bloomington area. And him and this friend were walking by, and they walked past my dad's house, and he was like, yeah, you know this guy here? This guy's the biggest meth dealer in the Inland Empire.
No.
And he was like, this house? Yeah. Bullshit. That's my friend's dad.
Uh-huh.
Well, your friend's dad's a drug dealer.
Holy shit.
And, yeah, so, I mean, I guess getting into that, I don't know when the drug dealing actually stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Or if, but...
Did they ever spend like because especially like with meth, I always thought like drugs, meth, especially back then, it was like you're going away for a while.
Yeah, maybe he had a good lawyer. I don't know.
But
he was never gone for a long time.
That's insane, man. And during that time, it seems super chaotic. Did you have any kind of an inkling, like, to go into law enforcement or the military or any, like...
No.
Nothing like that?
Mm-mm.
So you graduate high school, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go to college, business, because we grew up without money. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently you had tons of money. You just didn't know about it.
I didn't have any.
Yeah, well, sure. But definitely not the best environment to be in. And... when you were in debt, what's kind of weird about that is that I have a couple of friends, when we talk about like all the social issues going on right now, and like I was a big Andrew Yang supporter, right? And he was a dude that he ran on giving universal basic income, giving $1,000 to, like every American. Right. And so when I talk to them about it, they're just like, motherfucker, join the fucking army, right? Or join the Marines. Like, you can get money that way. You can get your school paid off that way. So was that kind of like the sole, I guess, driver in that? Like, just, hey, this is this is a means to an end. Like, this is the way that, but since you've done, you said 15 years?
Yeah.
What got you hooked, man? Because like, again, like I said, like you didn't join in the best of times. Like, there's a lot of shit going on. Was it like the camaraderie? Was it like, the family stuff? Was it like the discipline? Was it like, hey, it was just fucking cool? Was it like, I get to travel to places I haven't been at? What really, because there's some people that just do 4 years and they're just like, cool, done, going to college, fuck you guys. But you just like today, right? What were you doing today?
I had drill weekend today. Today was a lot of just prep stuff for the oncoming drill next week.
How old are you?
33.
Fuck, you're a baby. But that's still 33. Like, aren't you doing shit with like 18-year-olds? Do they look at you like, man, look at this guy over here?
Yeah. Yeah, the senior.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the thing that probably kept me going, they always call it in the military or anything like dangling the carrot. You're always chasing like, oh, just a little bit more. And so my first contract, to get that $20,000 bonus and all the benefits that I wanted paying for college, it was a 6-year obligation.
6 years?
Yes.
But this is the reserves, though, right? They tell you?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so...
And you're like 1 week in a month, 6 years,
too
whatever.
Easy.
Yeah.
So I'm going through it, and then at 4 years in, I came back from Iraq. I went to a course required to become a sergeant, and then.
By the way, how was that? Like you're on a plane. Oh, first of all, they tell you, hey, how do they tell you you're going to Iraq?
Oh, that's a funny story too.
Yeah.
So
Because you're at this point, you're just like I'm coming here one week in a month.
No, so when I come back from military police school, there's my unit's already in Iraq, and there's a rear detachment of the people who didn't deploy, and I'm there with them. I'm doing drill weekend with them, and they're gonna send a bunch of us to Kosovo with a different unit that needs to deploy. So I'm doing all this train up for Kosovo, thinking
What's going on in Kosovo at that time?
Probably not a whole lot. I don't even know.
Yeah,
there was some.
I think. I thought. Yeah. I think there was some sort of like. Okay. I remember there was some shit going on in Kosovo.
It's kind of like with the U.S. military when we go somewhere. Like we were in the Baltic region for a long time, and when we go somewhere, we just don't ever leave. Yeah,
you don't ever leave.
So they were still sending troops there. So we were gonna go there, and I'm doing all the training up for that. And there was me and one other guy that were going to all these training things. And then I'm on, at the time, not to date myself, on MySpace. And I log on, and I see this guy posted something on MySpace that he's going to Iraq. And I'm like, what the heck? And I call him, I'm like, hey, so you're going to Iraq instead? And he said, yeah, so are you. I'm like, bullshit. No, I'm not. And he's like, yeah, you are. I just talked to
That's Sergeant. How you found out?
Yeah, so then I call that sergeant who's in charge of our admin stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, I just talked to so-and-so. He says I'm going to Iraq instead. Oh, yeah, I meant to call you. I had your number dialed in, and then I got another call, and I just forgot to tell you.
Fucking A.
Yeah, so I found out I was going to Iraq the following, 2 months, leaving in 2 months, and I found out on MySpace.
Were you pumped?
No, not so much.
What were your thoughts?
Mainly, honestly, I just was like, dude, my mom's going to be devastated.
Yeah.
I was living with my mom at the time. Because the first year of UC Riverside, I was living in the dorms, and that was part of the expense. So then after that first year, I moved in with her. She had gotten remarried recently. She was living with her new husband, so I moved in with them. And so I'm in there in the living room, getting this information. Yeah. And she's sitting there watching TV, right next to me. I'm like, oh, now I got to let her know.
How do you break that? And I'm, because to a mother, that's like breaking it to her, right?
Yeah. I probably didn't do it the best way. I just hung up with him and I said, hey, I guess I'm going to Iraq now. Yeah.
She spit out like her drink.
Yeah, she started crying.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What did she tell you?
Just, what do you mean? Who said, where in Iraq? What are you going to do?
Was she there when you shipped out?
Yeah.
How was that? Was that a mess?
Yeah. Well, you know what? The day before I shipped out. So no, she didn't drive me to the airport because the day before, a bunch of my friends wanted to take me out, and we went to Margaritaville in San Bernardino. And
you guys have a margarita in San Bernardino?
Yeah. So they took me out there.
That place must be like popping.
It was.
Yeah.
And a friend of ours was a waitress there, so she was getting me all kinds of free drinks.
Yeah.
One of the bartenders was a Desert Storm vet. He was sending me all kind of free drinks. He said something on the speaker that, oh, we got somebody in here going to Iraq tomorrow. Everybody started sending me drinks. So that next day I was
going to say, you might not even have showed up.
Dude, so they drove me. My friends that were out with me showed up to take me to the airport. And I was in no condition.
So how do they do it? Do they do you have to go to a military base, report there, and then, or do you just take a fucking Delta Air flight? How does that work?
So normally on the typical deployment when you're going, because like I said, the unit was already there, so they already did their big MOB up and everything. They would all go together to a military base. They'd have a couple months of training, and then they would, go out and fly out there on commercial air up to a certain point, and then military air.
What kind of plane do you know?
Into the country?
Yeah.
A C-130.
C-130.
Yeah. So with me, it was a little different because it was just me and one other guy that were going to catch up with the rest of the unit. And so we went over.
Did you piss somebody off?
Actually, the reason that I had to go and catch up with them is because we had a first sergeant who's like one of the higher ranks in the enlisted ranks. And he got one of the privates in our company pregnant. And they were both relieved to go. Well, he was relieved. She was just able to go home because she was pregnant.
Right.
So we were over backfilling some spots.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Damn. And all right, so you're on a plane and you land in Iraq?
No, so we fly to think it was Georgia. We do a little bit of expedited training.
By Russia or Georgia, U.S.?
U.S.
Okay.
Yeah, do some expedited training, and then we get flown over. We fly commercial air to Germany, and then to Kuwait, commercial air. And then from Kuwait, we have to get military transport into Iraq.
When you fly to Kuwait, do you fly like Emirates or?
I think so.
Was it a sick plane? Like, was it like double decker? Like, there's a bar?
No, not that I remember.
Because usually, like when you fly around those countries, like their planes are. Anyway.
No, it was basic, cheap military. Whatever.
Was it a plane with propellers? I hope not.
I don't think so.
And chickens and shit.
Yeah.
So from Kuwait.
So we got stuck in Kuwait for quite some time because they were trying to find transport to get us. Because when it's only 2 people, it's not like a priority. So we were there for a few weeks, just kind of hanging out.
So we'll just sit tight.
Yeah, we'll let you know. And then we got.
What do you do during that time? Do you just more training? Do you play video games?
Just eat at the chow hall, go to the gym, and twiddle your thumbs.
At the chow hall, do they have like MR? It's not MREs, right?
No.
Okay.
That's all right food.
Okay.
And then, so that was my first ride on a Blackhawk, actually, was finally they got us. They're like, oh, we have some Blackhawks that are going to be going to the base.
So it's pretty much kind of like when it's convenient, like, hey, somebody's already going there.
Yeah.
Hop a ride.
Exactly.
On there. Okay.
Yeah, they're not going to schedule a flight for these 2 guys to get over there. So they flew us in. The unit received us, and then we.
At that point, like, is your adrenaline going? Like.
Yeah.
Or is it still like, okay, I've already been here. I guess I'm gonna go with my.
Yeah, I think it was more the nerves of just like something new, like a first day at school type of thing. Like, I don't know these people. They've been here doing this thing for this long already, and I'm kind of the new guy.
Because when you were in Kuwait, like, was it just chill, relax? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing going on in Kuwait. Kuwait was a friendly, nation, nothing going on there. So it was, just peaceful.
But now that you're going there, it's like, hey, this is real.
Yeah.
So you land there, touchdown. What's that like?
I mean, so we land. They walk us into the receiving area. We got like platoon sergeants and stuff.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, sorry to cut you off. Just because, like, whenever you watch movies and things like that, especially like, things based around Vietnam, right?
Right.
And somebody lands and it's like, land is like, all right, so, all right, soldier, what you're going to do is you're going to report over there. And you hear like,
right.
It's like, oh, fuck, I'm in a war zone.
Right.
Was it like that? Or
No.
Okay.
No, it was.
Touchdown, just like an airport.
Yeah, touchdown like an airport. Hey, walk that way. The cruise is still loud. The rotor spinning and all that.
Airport shit. Yeah.
Yeah, just walk that way, go, and then, we see the people from our unit that came to receive us. Hey, how you going, Sergeant First Class so and so? I'll be your platoon.
Did you know anybody?
No,
that was there? Oh no,
nobody. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was nothing like the movies. And then honestly, that whole mission, I was there for about 6 months. And like I said,
what was the mission? Because you're military police at that point, right?
So our mission, like I said before, was to just train the Iraqi police.
Okay.
So we would go each day. We'd go to different Iraqi police stations, and they would conduct training. Me being like brand new, I was a gunner, so I would sit at the gun, parked outside the station, watching for people to come up and
try to kill you,
try to kill us.
Oh shit.
And,
what? Did you have a translator while you were working with the Iraqi police? So it was just, was that difficult? Because, you're teaching them certain things, and a lot of times like that stuff doesn't translate well. And how did they react to it? Like, oh, these Americans teaching us.
They were receptive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also,
was there camaraderie between you guys? Like,
yeah.
Or was it segregated? Like, okay, like, Iraqis over here,
No.
U.S. people here, or like, because did they know English at all?
Oh,
they
the
did.
Interpreters knew English. Yeah.
No. I'm talking about like the police.
Just the Iraqi police? Nah, not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they want to hang out with you guys? Did you think?
Oh, so between the Iraqi police and us, I thought you meant between the interpreters. No, not really. Like, it wasn't there was no hanging out or.
Okay.
It was kind of, we're here. This is the training we're going over, and then we're on to the next. Yeah.
Did you have to be I'm assuming you had to be super serious and stuff like that, right?
I mean, So I was never involved in that training myself, being that I was so new. I was out there. I mean, I was just waiting, like, how much longer are these people going to, you know, like I'm sitting at the gun just staring out for most of the time.
Did you ever...
No, I never had to fire at anybody.
Never had to fire anybody?
Yeah, no. While we were there was an incident that was actually between Iraqi police and our forces, where one of our soldiers was shot and killed by an Iraqi police officer.
What happened?
I don't know. I think it was something. I don't know. He just lost it. I don't know. From what I understood, he thought there was some type of disrespect or something.
Yeah.
And he shot one of our master sergeants over there.
Master sergeant? Well, yeah. I don't even know what that, right? Is that high? It just
Yeah.
like whenever it's like master and sergeant, it's like,
Yeah.
fuck. And so what happens then?
I mean, just like any other.
Like, is there a trial, jail, conviction?
Yeah, so that I think was probably dealt with on the Iraqi justice system. Yeah.
Oh,
because it's in their country.
Yeah. Do you? Oh, really? But it was a U.S. soldier,
right?
So the U.S. doesn't get involved in it in any way, or
I don't know what involvement they could really.
or is it one of those scenes where it's like, well, what they do to their people over that, it's probably going to be worse what we would do, so might as well just let them deal with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's more or less just political lines. Like, we can't enforce rule and stuff in another country. You know, it sounds contradictory to say because we're there enforcing, you know.
Is it one of those things, like, to be funny about it, about a very serious situation? It's like, yeah, we don't want to start that kind of shit, so let's just address it and move on.
Yeah, I'm sure there's conversations that are had on other levels to make sure that
above your pay grade,
right, that the situation is handled properly, that it's not brushed under the rug or anything like that, but it's still on their justice system too. Yeah.
You know, one question that I have for service people is, I think what is it? George W. Bush was president, right? As somebody like in the armed forces, he's chief. What do you call it? He's your boss.
Commander in chief.
Commander in chief. Yeah. What's especially now, right? Like everybody, it's just so divided, and this Republican. In the Army, does it matter, or is that just like, no, that's my boss. That's what I got to do. Fuck it. How does that work? Or is there any kind of like political divisions and that kind of stuff, or everybody's just so preoccupied with their job that doesn't like seep in?
I would say soldiers they're just regular people, so the same opinions you have on politics are the same. You know,
really?
You just can't be as expressive of them publicly as a service member because they are your boss.
Yeah.
You know, just at same place at your work, you can't really freely express your opinions on your boss. So people still have their opinions and discuss them internally, but ultimately, you know, you have to perform the job. And
the reason why I asked that is because, like Desert Storm and things like that, right? Like, we definitely, like in the news, it was like, oh, look what Saddam Hussein is doing his people, and like mustard gas and all that stuff. And it definitely felt like a lot of people were supporting that, right? But that war in Iraq, at least that I can remember, that was the first time where it definitely felt like there was some division on whether we should even be there. So I was just wondering, like, I know the like civilians were going through that, and I was wondering in the armed forces if it was like the same thing. Like some people were just like, dude, why the fuck are we here? Like,
I never got that impression from anybody. I think everybody was just, you know, we were most of the people.
It's funny because bunch of kids.
Yeah. And we're just kind of like there to do a job.
Trying to pay your college bill.
Yeah, going with the flow. Just going with the flow. Yeah. I didn't hear at that time a lot of political talk about it. It was just talking about nonsense.
How old were you? When you were
When I was deployed?
Yeah.
I was 20. Let me see. So I was there from 08 to 09. So yeah, I was 21.
If you were in Iraq, I could be totally wrong, but I can only assume that you've discharged your gun.
In Iraq?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit. Okay, see? Totally misconception.
Yeah.
Because, one of the things that I feel is like, I'm picturing myself at 21, and I'm at the dive bars in Long Beach, freaking getting wild, taking shots, getting into uncompromising situations, and you're dealing with being a gunner and hoping that nobody tries to kill you guys and stuff like that. And do you feel like you missed out on kind of like the stuff that you get into when you're that young?
No, I mean, I still had, before I went, I had my 2 years at UCR. I was in a fraternity, and I got to, party it up a little bit. And then, Iraq, I was 6 months of my life I was there, and then came back. And yeah.
So when you came back, your mom must have been super relieved, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, that's it, never again, right? And then what happens?
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I've been lucky in that aspect that I haven't deployed again since I've been back from
It was just that 6 months?
Just that. I was supposed to deploy with the aviation unit last month. And there was a lot of back and forth on that, but we were supposed to go to a base in Iraq that Trump started the drawdown of troops in Iraq, and they completely pulled out of the base we were supposed to go to.
Oh, so they're like, okay,
canceled it.
Yeah. So then so you did 6 months there, came back, and how did that? I guess what was the next step in your military career?
So my military career in that, so I was a specialist. My rank was a specialist, and so I continued.
What's the first one?
So there's private,
yeah,
and then private first class. I'm sorry, there's private, PV2, private first class, specialist, corporal, sergeant, staff sergeant, sergeant first class, master sergeant, first sergeant, sergeant major, command sergeant major. Those are the ranks of the enlisted. And then I'm a warrant officer. All
right, show me on the hands. Where are you at in the ranks?
So then you have warrant officer 1.
Wait, after all that?
After all that, then you have warrant officer.
That was already like 10.
Yeah. Well, when you say after all that, they're different rank structures. So if you're an enlisted soldier, and that's what you're going to do, when you get to command sergeant major, you're at the top of your rank structure. And then you have officer ranks that are going to, in the grand scheme, they're going to outrank the enlisted ranks, right? So you got warrant officers who are in the middle, and those are easy. Warrant officer 1, chief warrant officer 2, chief warrant officer 3, chief warrant officer 4, chief warrant officer 5. And then you have the...
How long before you get to 5?
I mean, it really depends on the individual, but that's like a full military career. To get to a 5,
really?
Probably like 15 to 20 years.
More than what you're doing?
Oh, for me, I'm getting out next year.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Excited.
Because it's been a while. I mean, it's excited. Why?
Just to focus on family and other things in my life right now.
But I feel like you could have done that a long time ago.
I could have, and I said I was going to several times along the way.
So what keeps you there?
The first time was promotions, because I got the promotion to sergeant, and then I was about to get out, and then I got promoted to staff sergeant, and then I was going to get out, and then the idea of flight school came up.
That carrot, it's strong, man. That carrot's strong.
It's hanging here.
Yeah.
I'm just chasing it, and it's never getting any closer. But yeah, so then the idea of flight school, and then flight school, you go, and once you graduate flight school, you incur a 6-year obligation, and I'm 5 years into that one, which will bring me to 16 years total.
Jeez.
Yeah.
How did you get into Flying Blackhawks? And the reason why I'm curious about that is because Do you know my whole wanting to join the military story?
No.
Or just like armed forces?
No.
So I wanted to be a photographer. No, I'm just kidding. So funny enough, my dad came here from Mexico years ago. He was an older guy. So, I mean, he came here, I think like in the 60s or something like that. Cause he worked Vegas. He worked Vegas during the times where like Sinatra and all those guys were around. Lived in San Francisco. And when he came from Mexico, Mexico itself is very amazing, beautiful. It's great, except their government, all that, like the infrastructure, it's shit, right? Hence why so many people come here. My dad's story was a little bit different because his mom or his dad during the Mexican Revolution or something like that, he was a train conductor, right? And the opposing people, they're like, oh, that's a government thing, right? So they set dynamite in the railroad tracks, and when the train went, blew up, killing my grandpa, right? And so, you know, now you have this young mother not knowing what the fuck she's gonna do, and so this is like, it's like in the 20s, right? And she got with a very wealthy man who also had a family and was a widower, right? Was a widow or whatever. But the thing what happened is, you know, they fell in love, got married, but my dad was a product of a different marriage. So, you know, he didn't really care too much about it.
Yeah.
And my dad ran away like at 16 and came to America, right? Hence like why he worked here back in the day and all that stuff. So he was pretty resentful towards Mexico because like he felt that it never gave him the opportunity to be like what he did, because he went through homelessness, like poverty, and nobody really helped him, right?
Right.
But when he came here to America, that all changed for him, you know? And there were so many people willing to help him.
Right.
Right. He just found it amazing that he could work at a restaurant and they gave him free food. You know, he was just like, oh my God, what is this place? And then he started getting paychecks and he could afford things and he could live on his own and stuff like that. So, TLDR, my dad was super appreciative towards the US and giving him a life.
Right.
Right. So me growing up, you know, when we were talking about like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? I'm just like, I want to be a rock star. He was like, oh, that's stupid. But you know what? If you want, my mom was actually the driver of this, like, whatever you want to do, we'll support you. Right.
Right.
But my dad was always kind of like, you should get back to this country.
Yeah.
You know, because look what it has done. You get to go to Disneyland. Right.
Right.
So I remember, in the 80s watching Top Gun, right? And my dad being like, eh?
Yeah. There you go.
And I thought it was like the fucking coolest thing. Like, imagine riding a fucking a jet.
Right.
Fucking amazing, right? Playing volleyball shirtless with Val Kilmer. Why not? So I was set.
Right.
I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do, right? I didn't really care about like Marine stuff. I didn't even really care about Army stuff. It was just, I want to fly jets, right? And when we have a career fair, right? And career fair, you know, you have all the colleges as well. And then you have this, that, these schools, these trade schools. And then you have the U.S. Navy, right?
Yeah.
And actually, and you also have the Air Force,
Sure.
right? And I didn't even put those two together. So I was like, Air Force obviously makes sense. So I was like, yeah, I want to fly fucking F-16. They're like, yeah, it's go over there, man. It's those guys. And you know, I go to, I was like, yeah, I want to be a pilot. I've been interested in it forever. Like I was one of those kids. Like I don't know if you remember. We're not the same age, but I don't know if you remember going to the grocery store or liquor store. It's like these planes that you unwrap. They're made out of like cardboard,
like balsa wood.
Yeah. Something really weird, but they were like the replicas of actual airplanes. I used to collect all those. My dad used to get me all the model airplanes and shit. And that was my thing. That I was super passionate about it.
Yeah.
You know, I remember them telling me like, "Oh, you got to know a lot about math. You got to know a lot about math because that's all that shit is and all that." On it, copying off everybody just so I can get a high math test score.
Yeah.
And I remember going up to them and being like, "Yeah, I want to be a pilot." And the recruiter, the guy's like, "Are those for looks or are those corrected glasses?" I was like, "No, they're corrected," thinking it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh man, can't fly a plane with those." Have you ever seen that Simpsons episode where the dude gives Lisa the Valentine's Day "I choose you"?
Ralph, yeah.
Ralph, right? And his heart breaks.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. It never happened, dude.
I wish my story was as passionate as yours. I feel like in telling all these stories, it seems like everything in my life just kind of like fell into like I was like all circumstance.
Ryan, that's called white privilege, okay?
Thank you. Yeah. No, so
you being poor is white privilege. Anyway, sorry, don't want to go there, but anyway. But yeah.
Yeah, so the whole way that I fell into Flying Blackhawks is that I was working at the sheriff's department nights, so the inmates are all sleeping, and I'm working with another deputy, and he starts talking about his dream of flying helicopters one day. Mm-hmm. And we have a computer with internet access there in the in our office space. So I say, "Oh, well, let's look it up and see what that entails." And we start looking at flight schools and helicopter flight schools, and we're like, "Holy fuck, it's expensive to learning to fly helicopters is a lot more expensive than learning to fly an airplane."
No way, because that's already fucking expensive. I looked into it. I was like, maybe my dream is just flight simulator.
Right. Yeah. A helicopter is a lot more expensive to operate.
Why is that?
Well, you think about everything that's required to make a helicopter fly. Like an airplane, once you get that speed and that thrust and it just glides,
lift,
like you can make a paper airplane, right? But you can't make a paper helicopter because a helicopter is fighting to stay in the air.
Shit!
Like
I never thought about that.
Yeah, helicopter. I mean, a plane wants to fly.
You know what bothers me is that in one of the flights we had, there's this lady sitting next to me, nervous, hates flying, right? I remember like the first time I took a flight, I was nervous. And so what I did is I looked exactly on what flight is on an airplane.
Right.
Right. And I was like, oh, we're good. Cause as long as, you have, the speed and the lift and all that, like,
yeah,
shut the engines off. We're whatever.
Yeah.
And so I try to explain to her.
She wasn't having it.
She was not having it. Yeah. But I think now you just made me afraid of helicopters. The fact that they're just fighting to stay in the air.
Right.
I will never take that trip to Catalina on a helicopter. No, but anyway, so.
Yeah. So he's talking about that. We're looking into it, and I'm like, holy fuck, that's expensive. And then I'm like, well, how do people fly military helicopters? Because I'm in the military. Mm-hmm. So I started looking at that. And then.
So you were just going to, take, flight school just.
No, I wasn't even interested.
Oh, your buddy.
Yeah, we were just looking into it for him.
Okay.
And then that question popped in my head, like, well, how do people do this? And I see the process. Oh, you got to apply and you got to do these interviews and da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that'd be kind of cool. And then I see that you have to go to Fort Rucker, Alabama at that point it said up to 2 years. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. I can't leave my wife.
I was going to say, you're already married at this point?
Yeah, married, no kids yet. But I'm like, she just got her job. I can't do that. But I'm like, not even an option. Mm-hmm. And then way later, to make a long story short, I'm at this dinner with some other military, like one of my command sergeant major and our brigade commander. They take us out to this dinner, me and my wife, and I'm getting out. At that point, I'm getting out of the military, 100%, for sure. Right? This was in 2000, probably 15. Done. 100% done. And we're at this dinner, and they asked me, hey, what are your future plans with the Guard? And I was like, oh, honestly, I'm out. And they're like, what? No, you got to stay in. They're trying to talk me into it. And I said, nah, the only thing I've ever
Where
seen...
are they trying to talk you into it? You're old already.
Yeah, well, at that point, I had been in for like 8 years.
Do they want you to be one of those career?
Yeah, they all do. Yeah.
I gotcha.
So, and I'm like, nah, the only thing I've ever looked at that maybe would interest me in staying is going to flight school. But I was like, I can't do that because I can't leave my wife for 2 years. And they said, no, for that, she can go with you. They'll fly her out there with you. And I'm like, oh, and she didn't like her teaching job at the time. She didn't like that district. I glance over at her and she's like, oh, that would be fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, she said that would be fun? Oh, okay.
The next day.
Oh, dude, if the wife gives the green light, you're good.
The next day I emailed the recruiter from the warrant officer recruiter for aviation. He emails me back the list of requirements and the things I need to do to put a packet together. You got to put together this big packet with letters of recommendation. You have to take an aptitude test. You got to take a physical test. That's several, extensive physical tests. Not physical ability, but physical like vision. All that stuff.
Things that I wouldn't be able to pass.
Yeah.
Dick. Yeah.
Yeah. Just want to point that out.
Yeah.
And so I put together this whole packet. I got to do 2 interviews in Sacramento, and all that, and that's.
Did you have to get like a letter from your congressman or some shit like that? Or?
No, but I had to get a letter from like a colonel.
Okay.
And some other letters of recommendation. So it all started from another employee just talking about that he wanted to fly helicopters, and I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. That sounds kind of fun. And then it was probably like 8 months later, I was.
What is it fun?
The Army has a way of making anything not fun. Like if they had an MOS of like MOS is military occupational specialty, like whatever job. If they had an MOS of porn star, it would be terrible. You would hate it. You'd be like, I don't even want to go today.
Yeah.
This sounds horrible. They were like, hey, we're shooting this threesome scene with 2 chicks, and you're like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
They're gonna make it terrible.
Because they make you wear a condom.
They make everything like. The first experience I had with that was in basic training when we had to go do a range where you had to shoot a machine gun off the top of an up-armored Humvee and shoot at vehicles out in this field. That sounds fucking incredible, right? Like you'd probably pay good money.
Yeah, that sounds like fucking real fun. Yeah.
And I remember being in basic training and they're like, hey, we're doing this thing. And I was like, that sounds fucking terrible. Because they're going to be sitting here yelling the whole time, telling you you're fucking it up. Why aren't you doing this? Da, 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 da. Mm-hmm. So they were like, go stand in line, do it. And then when you're done, go wait in the bleachers till everybody's done. But they weren't. I noticed they weren't checking names off. I just went to the bleachers. What? That.
Really?
Yeah, I don't want to do that. So they have, and I was like, man, if you'd have told me 2 months ago that you're gonna have an opportunity to shoot a machine gun off the top of an up-armored Humvee, and you're gonna be like, I don't want to do that, I'd have been like, you're full of shit. But the Army has a way.
What about it? Like,
they just suck the fun out of everything.
Yeah. Because just like anything, like it becomes a job. Yes. Right.
Yeah. They overcomplicate everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so then, I mean, that's what you're doing now, right?
Yeah. There's still there's fun days. Obviously, it's.
Awesome. What's a fun time with that kind of stuff?
Oh man, like when you just go out on a flight.
Do you get to blow shit up at all?
So next month we're doing our aerial gunnery training. So that's where we get the guys in the back. So in the Blackhawk, we don't have weapon systems that are incorporated with the aircraft system. It's weapons that will attach at the rear crew seats. So they'll attach 240 machine guns, and they'll manually fire the machine guns out the windows. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing that the pilot can control, like an Apache helicopter shooting missiles or anything like that.
So you're driving the thing.
We're driving the thing.
Gotcha.
And they're shooting.
You're like, this is not what I signed up for, man. I want to fucking.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's what we're gonna do next month. We're gonna go up to Central California and go to the range, and we'll fly, and the guys in the back will shoot targets and all that.
Like, have you been on missions with it or at all, or
the missions that we have in the California National Guard with our Blackhawks are some of the biggest ones are firefighting. So we'll do water bucket drops.
They use Blackhawks for that?
Yeah, so we'll sling a water bucket underneath the helicopter. We'll dip it into a lake or whatever water source we have, and then go drop water. We'll have CAL FIRE personnel in the aircraft with us. They're the fire expert. They know the how fire operates and acts, and so they'll know where the water needs to be. So they'll give us guidance.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they'll give us guidance on, hey, we need to drop over here to prevent the fire moving this way, that way, and then we'll just control the aircraft, and then the crew chief in the back releases the water.
I feel all this is just prep for you being the traffic guy.
The traffic guy?
Yeah, for like Fox 11.
This is
like,
the build-up.
Yeah, this is all this training, and then you're gonna be like, hey everybody, like on the 101, we got an accident, overturned vehicle.
Yeah. And I'm like, I used to be somebody.
Yeah. But kind of this is all like a side gig, really, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, are you doing just stuff on weekends or?
So with the whole one week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer thing changed when I became a pilot, because now there's flight hour requirements and minimums that you have to maintain. So we have a thing called AFTP, Additional Flight Training Plan, which is you have 72 a year that you manage on your own to come in and fly, schedule flights, and do whatever you do to manage there's night vision goggle hours that you have to meet, instrument flying, which is when you're flying in the cloud, hours you have to meet. So you manage your own program and make sure that you meet all those hours semi-annually and annually. So I come in and typically about once a week.
Are you able to take civilians on that? No.
Got to be in the military.
God dang it.
Yeah. Oh, but back to like when you said, do you ever have fun with it? We still do some like fun flights, because you manage your own program, right? So you just have to fly. So there's like there's a steakhouse called Harris. I think it's called Harris Ranch. It's called Harris Ranch out by like Tulare area.
Okay.
And so, one flight, hey, we need to get some flight hours, daytime and night vision goggle.
Are you kidding me?
And there's a little airstrip by Harris Ranch next to the steakhouse. Tiny little airstrip. But a helicopter doesn't need much air. We can land. We can hover.
Well, on a roof.
Yeah, so we just plan a flight. We're going to fly out to this airstrip over by Harris Ranch. We land. It's by a truck stop. It's the weirdest thing. You would never know there's an air. So people are like, what the heck is going on? There's a Blackhawk landing here. And we land at the airstrip. We get out, lock the doors, walk over, have a steak dinner.
Lock the doors? Like, is there like, chick, chick?
I wish.
Okay.
Yeah, a little manually lock it, and then have a great steak dinner. It's in farmland. So like it's out in the cattle and everything. It's all fresh. We have a steak dinner. We hop back in, put the night vision goggles on, and fly back night vision goggles. But we're meeting the training intent, right? Because we need hours in the day and hours in our night vision goggles. If we have to have a steak dinner in the middle.
Dude, if you ever need to log flight hours to take me to Vegas, let me know.
Yeah.
So how like when you came back, you're done with your deployment and all that stuff. Were you like, what do I do now? How did you land in law enforcement? It seems like it's obvious, right? Especially like you being military police.
Yeah.
Was it obvious, like, hey, when I come back, like, might as well just kind of keep doing it, but civilian?
Yeah. It was kind of like, well, this is kind of a cool job. Like, I could see myself doing this.
Yeah.
And UC Riverside did not have a criminal justice program. And at the time, I thought that was the obvious major. Like, if I'm going to be a cop, criminal justice. I would advise anybody listening, if you want to be a cop, probably not the best choice, because it limits you. Now I have a degree.
How so?
Well, I have a degree in criminal justice. Let's say I get an injury and where I have to retire from law enforcement, right? What do I do with that? I have a degree in criminal justice. What job am I going to get? If I had a degree in business management, that's going to help me in law enforcement, because once you get past the rank of a sergeant or even probably a sergeant, you're a manager, right? You're managing personnel, you're managing schedules, you're managing budgets as a lieutenant and above. That's a very applicable degree, but also applicable in so many other fields. So that's probably something I would recommend. Something in business, it would be more widely applicable outside of the job.
Than just like,
or maybe you just maybe you decide you don't want to be a cop anymore, or maybe you do your whole career because you retire as a cop. 50 years old, you're still kind of young. And you can go do something else with a lot of experience.
At any point in your life, did you think you were going to become a cop?
Not until joining the Guard.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Never even crossed my mind until showing up and then saying, hey, these are the jobs that offer $20,000 bonuses. holy shit, $20,000. Military police, that sounds cool. That's probably the first time that I considered being a police officer.
Do you get told by the military, like, hey, out of here, like, hey, you got a pretty good chance of being a police officer?
No, they don't really pitch that.
They don't.
No.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people from the unit that I was in did end up getting civilian police officer jobs on the outside. And I think that was probably more just a product of them being interested in the first place. You know, they were always interested in law enforcement stuff. So it definitely helps. Like, military experience coming into law enforcement helps. Not only in the sense that it's like, oh, it looks good, but they also give you preferential points.
Why is that?
Why do they get preferential points? I think it's just another added benefit of serving your country and things. And then not only that, but probably they just see that experience as valuable to the department, the discipline and everything. I mean, they're investing a lot of money in you to decide to send you to an academy. And some people can't even handle that stress level of the academy. Whether they could perform the job, they just can't even get through. If you can't get through the academy.
What's stressful about it?
Oh, man. So when I went to the academy, so I mean, there's day one, they just show up screaming at you. They're doing flash grenades going off, and they're coming screaming, chewing you out. Why is your uniform like this? Why is their hair? You know, they're just going off on you. And then, you know, during the academy, they gave us so many assignments to work on during the night. Homework assignments and this and that, and you got to shine your boots, you got to get your uniform ready, you got to do these things where I was sleeping probably the first week about maybe 45 minutes to an hour a night, every night for the first maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
Question for you. So are most of the people that are police officers like former military or anything like that?
No, I wouldn't say most. Because I mean, you got to think it's about, I think they say less than 1% of the population that serves in the military overall. It's probably a higher percentage in law enforcement, but still not a majority.
Gotcha.
By any means. In my personal experience, and this isn't like a factual number or anything, just based on my personal experience, I would say like 10%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is there, like, within the police department, is there kind of like a cool kids club, you know, where it's like, oh, those are the former military guys, like?
Yeah, I think they do have a level of respect for people who have served in the military. Yeah, I remember like in the academy, people would always think, because the academy was rough. It was
really
tough. Yeah, and see, that's like the same reaction. People would be like, "Oh, you already been through Army basic training. This must be easy for you." And I'm like, "Fuck no."
Really?
It's still hard. You know, it's still hard.
You don't seem like a guy that's fazed by people yelling at you.
Yeah.
So
no, I don't care about that.
So what's rough about it?
I think the stressful part was just time management and things like that. Like, you're just they try to overwhelm you with everything. Like I said, you got to have your boots shined every day, your uniform pressed, your baton. You had this baton that had to be lacquered and polished. But
is that like the nightstick thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they would take it from you and toss it, and it would get all jacked up. So you had to re-sand it, repaint it, and gloss it with also doing your boots. And they give you memos every night that you have to write, like, which is a handwritten essay, basically. Let's say you're with all the stuff they were making you do running in this, your bootlace came untied. Why is your bootlace untied? Give me a 3-page memo on the importance of your appearance.
No way. Oh, okay.
So now you got a 3-page report with everything else going on, and it's handwritten. Every letter has to be the same size, height. It's the same space between every letter, between every word.
If it's not, does it get ripped up and like do it again, kind of shit?
It gets red. It gets red pinned, and you got to redo it the next night. So if you got 3 memos on Monday, and they all get red pinned, and then you get 3 more on Tuesday, now you got 6, and then you get 3 more, and they all get red. Now you got 9, and it just starts to build up. So we had, I would say, by lunch on the first day of the academy, probably 5 people went home. on their own accord, not told.
Yeah.
They're fired. Just like, nah.
What do you think the importance of stuff like that is? Because like, I work in an industry where mistakes are cool, man. Like,
Right.
it's like, you got to learn somehow.
Right.
To like, hey, your letters are don't match. Like, rip it up, do it over again.
I think the
What
majority.
what do you think that's important and beneficial, or is it beneficial, or is it just something that's just the way it's been? And
Right. Yeah, I think there is some benefit to being able to learn to work under pressure and to prioritize. And hey, I got all this stuff to do tonight. What's the most important? And let's get that done first and make sure, so prioritizing is important in the job. And then just dealing with stress. So like sometimes, a lot of times on the job, you're going to have a lot of things to deal with at once on a particular call. And your brain's going to be spinning and things like that. And being able to just focus on, okay, what's important right now? And let's get that done. And then we'll move on. And people yell, outside of just them bombarding you with all these menial tasks, all the yelling and all the ridicule, that's stuff we get all the time.
Yeah.
People yelling at me every day, calling me names, and you just have to be able to deal with that and still focus on the task at hand.
You talk like within the police department or just people in general?
No, the public.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No. You're shut.
Believe it or not.
Cops?
Believe it or not.
That is crazy. From what I hear, cops are bad. They're dope.
No. I'll take you on a ride along.
Wait, isn't all cops are bad? Like, you guys are bad, man.
Oh, yeah. That's what they say?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
By the way, here's my conspiracy theory. About all ACAB, all cops are bad. How do we know that it wasn't started not by, political movements, but by the fire department?
Oh,
have you thought about that? Have you thought about maybe they're the ones that fucking started that shit and then, just like planted that shit and then people ran with it. Some firemen trolls started putting that shit out there and look where it went.
Because why would the public come up with that? Like,
exactly.
We're there to help.
Exactly. I mean, on your patrol car, it says to protect and to serve.
Yeah.
Why would the public even think that?
But it makes sense that the fire department, in all of their
at least
jealousy,
that's my conspiracy theory.
Man,
but I definitely do want to go into that, because 2020 was a crazy fucking year. Like COVID aside, you know. It's such a fucking complicated issue. So like, I guess, how long have you been a cop for?
I graduated the academy in December of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So 8 years. It would be 9 years this December. So 8 years.
Like I know you personally, right? And, you're a good dude. You always been a good dude. And so, like, I remember I reached out to you. I was like, dude, like during the summer, like, it's shit crazy with you. Like, what was it crazy for you? Like, last year, like just department, what was everybody's, I guess feelings towards this shit? Was it like, oh fuck? Because, and what I'm trying to get to is, in the end, it's a job, right? And so, definitely not the same thing, but like, IT person, right? When we have something big, crisis, there's a major hack or something like that, we're like, fuck, here it comes.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
What was, and mind you, with the George Floyd thing, right? Everybody that I know pretty much on the same page, like that's fucked up, right? What happened. But everything that's going to come along with that.
Right.
So there's a, oh fuck moment. Was that what if you can talk about like what went on, at least in your department, when shit like that happens?
No, exactly that. So we show up the next day, and most of us already seen the video, but we watch it in briefing, and it's just like fuck, brace yourselves, like, stand by, and we're gonna see what happens. Luckily, the city I work for, we have a very good relationship with our citizens. They respect us, we respect them, and we really didn't see the backlash that everybody did.
Gotcha.
We prepared for it, and we were worried about it because, and I'm again, not like you said, no conspiracy theory stuff, but there was everything saying, hey, all these people coming in and doing these riots aren't even from here. They're coming from this area and that area.
Yeah.
So just because we're so close-knit with our citizens doesn't mean that we couldn't have some issues arise within our city.
Right.
So we're still concerned at that point. So we did go on a tactical alert at one point where there is no days off. It's 12 on, 12 off. Everybody, 2 people to a car, fully saturating the city. All the special details are coming on in patrol cars, and everybody's out there. And we just kind of sat for a few days, and nothing happened. And we really just had an outpouring of support from our city coming into the department. Just, every day the report writing room was just full of...
Let it be known you don't work in Orange County, because I'm sure people are just like, oh yeah, motherfucker, because in Orange County people were like doing the thin blue line flag and all that shit. Yeah, but you don't work in Orange County.
No, I don't work in Orange County, but everybody was bringing us treats and thanking us and setting up things outside the station, holding signs, thanking us. We really had a positive reaction for us, but we definitely were concerned. To answer your question,
And so, you being a police officer, what do you think, like in being a LAPD, right? That's got to be rough,
right?
Especially during that time and stuff like that. But you've been around in the military. You've been around, you've done enough years being a police officer. What is your opinion about, police brutality, racism and all that stuff? Like, do you feel that it's an issue? I don't know. It's such a complicated. I don't even know where to begin with that.
I think that when people speak on police brutality, I think like you said, it's a lot more complex issue. Yeah. There's a...
Cause here's the thing, where I guess it was first really kind of in your face was like the Rodney King stuff, right? Where you just saw a whole bunch of cops just beating this dude, and it was like, a V chest. And everybody's like, oh my God, especially when you saw his face and shit like that.
Yeah.
And it feels kind of weird to live toward 2 versions of that, because now here we are 30 years later,
right,
dealing with something like that.
I just think there are...
Do you feel it's gotten better? Is there stuff within the police department, I guess, is it a concern within the department? And are there people hey, we got to make sure that...
Yeah, we always talk about it. And we always talk about watching out for your partner, because there's a thing called becoming emotionally hijacked. And we're all human beings. And sometimes when you get so into a situation, you can become emotionally hijacked. We don't see what happened a lot of times leading up to this end result. Not to justify it, but, we have to look at a totality of the circumstances. What brought us to this point? And then, sure, sometimes people are going to get emotionally hijacked, the officer, and the adrenaline's pumping. And when it finally comes to this end resolution that's now captured on film and this result, sometimes it looks bad. Sometimes it is bad. Sometimes it just looks bad. We don't have the full picture. But, yeah, we talk about it and say, hey, self-control and stepping in. Maybe you're the second officer on scene, and you're not emotionally tied to this call at all. We do talk about having the wherewithal and the respect for that officer too, to pull him away and say, hey,
Yeah.
We're good. We got him.
I
I'll
remember,
take it from here.
I think, like on Facebook, like you and I got into a little squabble. And you kind of checked me real quick, right? Because I remember, I think I was talking about like police brutality, or where I was like, well, you know what makes sense to me is you have, and this is why I asked you what percentage of military people are, in law enforcement, because what made sense to me was this: is you have a whole bunch of military people that were overseas, and mind you, this is again a civilian's perspective, right? And when you're overseas, Iraq, Afghanistan, whatever, ISIS and all that shit, and then you hear stories about little kids like holding bombs, and you can't trust anybody. You automatically, in that scenario, everybody else is the enemy, right?
Right.
You can't trust a little kid, can't trust a pregnant woman, whatever, right? And so in my mind, it was like, oh, well, you have these people that's kind of like where their wavelength is at. And now they come into the civilian world, get put into law enforcement because of the experience. You already have the training, you already did that job somewhere else in a much, maybe, I don't know, maybe a crazy environment, maybe not. It makes sense that you would treat everybody in that same way as they are the enemy.
Right.
But then you were like, dude, do you have any information on how? But, and I was like, no, obviously, this is just my perception and stuff like that. But do you think has any validity at all, or?
No, I mean, if that's your mindset, there's a very thorough screening process.
Oh, really?
Becoming a police officer, it's a very difficult and lengthy process with, psychological evaluations and reference.
Oh, they do?
I mean, they'll physically go out to your neighbors and talk to your neighbors, and they'll talk to former employers in person, not just
to be a police officer?
Yeah. So they'll come out there, and I mean, some of that stuff would probably come up if you're that. I mean, that sounds like a kind of extreme person to me. Maybe some people think that coming back from an environment like that, oh, you must be like that. You must be skeptical of everybody. I don't think that's the norm, but I think that happens in those people who need help and that end up with PTSD and issues and things like that. But I think a lot of those would probably be brought up in the hiring process. And obviously, some people might be good at hiding it, and can they slip through the cracks? Of course, absolutely. But I don't think it's common. I don't think it's like all these people are running around on patrol, not trusting anybody. Like everybody, and again, just in my experience, I can't speak for other states, law enforcement, other agencies, even around here. But in my personal experience, we don't hate the citizens.
Yeah.
We don't distrust the citizens. We're looking to protect the citizens, and we understand that it's important to have trust both ways.
And how do you guys, especially because of everything that happened last year, I feel that any kind of, I grew up in inner cities and stuff like that. And so I feel like the cops always tried to kind of reach out, and, they offered us, when I tell you that I want to take my ride-alongs, right?
Right.
Do that stuff to they always try to do some community outreach, right?
Right.
But I feel any of that, at least in a lot of places, maybe have reset everything. Fuck. So what are police departments doing to kind of get that back?
So one thing we've been doing recently is having open forums with citizens. We've had one recently where we brought in high school students to say, what are your views? What are your questions? What are your perceptions? And how can what are your suggestions?
You guys looking for feedback? And
yeah.
And do you guys like implement any of that feedback or?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. So we just try to keep an open dialogue so that we can, the big thing is to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of squash the rumors or, whatever misperceptions there are. But then also it's not here to say like, no, that's not right. That's not, also to be open to say, okay, I didn't realize or maybe we did realize, but we didn't think of that suggestion, how we can kind of change or, so I think even just bringing people in on the conversation is the biggest part.
Do you get like constructive feedback on that stuff? Because I feel like, at least a lot of the stuff that I see, right? It's just very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very like this.
Right.
Fuck cops. All cops are bad. You're fucking racist. You guys are pieces of shit. Like, you don't care about the community. Does it go further than that, or?
Yeah,
because that stuff you're just like, okay, like taking it. All right, cool. Now that you got that out of your system,
yeah.
Do you get actually people like, all right, why do you feel that way?
Yeah.
Do you get that far with it?
Yeah, we do. So before they did the actual community forum.
By the way, do your coworkers know that you have "fuck the police" tatted on your back?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I keep my shirt on.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, so I think a lot of that stuff you're talking about kind of went on behind the scenes. They discuss obviously, hey, this is what we're going to talk about at the forum, and try to make it constructive. So it's not this pointing fingers type of thing. And so yeah, they offer suggestions on just community relations stuff. Hey, well, stuff that we can actually take action on, as opposed to just like, stop being fucked up or, so they do offer, it's not anything groundbreaking that we don't already know. It's just stuff that we realize maybe is more important because I mean, honestly, the community doesn't care a whole lot about us arresting gang members and murderers. They just want to know, like, well, what have you done about the homeless people on the corner? What are you going to do about the cars driving fast so you have to, like, us as cops, the big priorities or the cool, sexy things are to arrest gang members.
Yeah. And
the community doesn't really care about that.
You know what I found really interesting, at least, again, this is anecdotal, with, I live in West LA for a couple of years, so I have a lot of friends there. But I've been in Long Beach most of my life, and I'm in North Long Beach, right? Show you my Ring app.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it's a different tale, right? Because at least what I found in my experience is, at least in Long Beach, right? People that live in certain areas, they're like, all cops are bad, all that stuff, right? But they also live in, like, kind of okay areas, I live in North Long Beach, where, like, this little neighborhood is cool, but the surrounding area, there's shootings like every day on the daily. And, and this area is, mainly Hispanic, Black. And what I see on the Ring app is, why can't we get more cops? And I feel like that's what really complicates this issue, because you have so many different communities, so many different places having different opinions. And what is the solution to that stuff? You know?
Yeah.
By the way, I have a complaint.
Go ahead.
My catalytic converter got stolen.
Yours and everybody else's. It's countrywide.
Dude, what the fuck? So on my Ring app, and the only reason I bring this up is because of my Ring app, the LA County Sheriff set out a thing like, we're going to be opening this thing to serialize your catalytic converter.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, yes, make my appointment, which is on Friday. On Thursday,
Gone.
my Prius sounds like a fucking Dodge Charger. I was like, what the? No.
Got those precious metals in there.
Who's buying them?
Recycling centers. We had one where I work recently where, I mean, the school buses obviously are just sitting now, right? So they broke into one of those yards where all the school buses are stored and stole like 40 catalytic converters off all the school buses.
Sorry, that was my complaint.
Yeah.
But anyway, kind of going back to like the serious talk. So are police departments kind of like nationwide, like saying like, hey, we need to kind of like better relationships with the community? Is it like all the voices that are saying like all cops are bad? Is it a minimal, you know, because a lot of times like it's on Twitter, right? And shit like that. So is it just like a small amount of the people have really loud voices? Do most of the community actually support police? Do you have people even wanting to be a police officer anymore? Like,
yeah,
I have so many questions because it's such a crazy fucking thing.
I think that's hard for me to answer because it's going to vary throughout the country, throughout the area, within the state.
You guys just don't have a cop newsletter?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, you know, where I work, it's, like I said, great relationship with the community. And there's not a lot of fuck the police. They're very supportive at town hall meetings. When all the stuff started with defund the police, and they were talking about that, we had a gentleman show up to one of the town hall meetings that was very vocal about
defunding the police.
Yeah, about not here, and all his great experiences with the police department here, and we have a great relationship with the city council too.
What were your thoughts when you heard about defund the police? Because again, like actually, the defund the police is misleading, right? Because they say like, hey, most people think that defund the police means let's get less police officers out there, right? But what it means is, hey, don't have police officers have to deal with all the shit, right? There's some things that should be for, social workers and things like that.
Yeah, but I don't think social workers can safely respond out into the field in that initial contact. I think they have a position to deal with that after maybe we've assessed it, made sure it's safe. So, I mean, I think
I think people's perception is, I'm sure you've seen the video where you have, I forgot if he's like social worker or therapist or something like that. It's this black dude, and then he has like this autistic kid, and he goes to the cops, and he's just like, don't shoot, he's autistic or whatever, right? And then the officers fire on that guy, right? So I feel when people see videos like that, people are like, hey, you know what? If they would have had a social worker there, then none of that would have happened. It would have been avoided.
Yeah, but I mean, what was the call, though? What information was put out to dispatchers? What information did officers receive? With that information, would they, even in that circumstance, would they even send a social worker with the information they had at the time? And I'm asking those because I don't really know. I know I've seen the video, but I don't know all those answers.
Yeah.
So even if we decided that, hey, we're going to have social workers for certain circumstances, would that have even been one that would have seemed practical at the time?
Yeah.
Because I think that some of the information they received was more like there's somebody armed with a weapon. Things like we're not going to be like, oh, but are they mentally ill? Okay, let's go ahead and send a social.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you that because one, I'm having you speak on a situation that you personally weren't involved in,
Right.
But in a situation like that, where chances are that's probably what happened. Somebody was like, "Hey, there's this guy who seems mentally ill, and he's waving a gun around."
Right.
Right. But I think the problem that people have is you have this guy saying, "Hey, he's actually okay. He's autistic. He's not waving a gun. We have our hands up.
Mm-hmm.
Don't shoot him." But they actually ended up shooting the social worker, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why people have an issue because, you know, and maybe this is the issue. We're not in your shoes, in the police officer's shoes, but from our point of view, that seems fucked up.
Right.
Right.
And I don't know what the outcome of that was for that officer. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like
yeah.
it's hard for me to speak on that because I don't know all the details surrounding it.
Yeah.
It looked bad. But I don't know.
You know what I think? Some people have an issue with, and it's probably for litigious.
Legitimate?
No, like lawsuit issues.
Oh.
That may have been fucked up.
Right.
You know? Like, did you ever see the video of oh fuck, man. I think it was like at a hotel or something like that. Where it's this dude, I think somebody reported that he had a gun or something like that. And then you see the cop and he has like, you know, his rifle and he has a freaking Punisher thing, which is like not good, like, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, like cases like that where you're just like, dude, that guy is on his knees complying, but then you still like end up killing him, you know? And so since obviously, you know, you're not involved in that stuff, does your police department go through things like that? Like, hey, like this is fucked up or
yeah, we almost weekly we watch videos that other departments put out of their critical incidences, and we analyze them. Obviously, with the privilege of, you know, the total picture and all the circumstances that we have now and everything, and we analyze them and we talk about what could we have done better, what was done well, what mistakes, you know, were made or not made. So yeah, almost weekly we pull up videos of, because all these things are released. Even in more detail to other police agencies for training purposes, where they'll discuss precisely all the information they had, the radio call, the camera footage from the officers on scene.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll talk about that stuff all the time on what, if we were in this circumstance, what could we do better?
Do you feel that there are bad seeds within the, like, you know, different police departments? And if so, what does the police department, I guess, do to try to lessen that, uncover that, reprimand that, like fix that?
I mean, yeah, I'm sure there are. You know, like I said, people are going to slip through the cracks and become unrecognized, or and it's going to be on each department to recognize a trend, because sometimes somebody's going to make a mistake, and if it's an honest mistake, you know, we have to give some exception, you know, to an extent. But when it becomes a trend, there's always, we document, you know, hey, this happened, we're going to do, there's different levels of punishment. There could be a written letter of reprimand, there could be time off where you lose pay, and there's different levels depending on the severity and what they decide through the administration, and then also your organization. What do you call it? It's like our union or police union, and they'll discuss what's appropriate. But yeah, when they recognize trends, that's when it gets to the level of you know.
So this is the reason like fuck everybody on Twitter, right? Me for myself, right? Because I want to have an opinion on this, right? But for me personally, like, I want to see like all the information, right? Not just what a news media outlet shows you, right? Because it's very simple, right? Like when, if a news story is getting a lot of trends, a lot of clicks and all that stuff, hey, let's put more stories like that over, right? So then all of a sudden you're going to see, oh, the Minneapolis police department just shot a guy doing this thing. Oh, look, in Missouri, like a police was caught like I don't know, like kicking a homeless dude. I don't know, whatever. You start seeing like these things. It's like, and a lot of people are like, oh, this must be the way it is, right?
Right.
But I feel like I can kind of like take the emotional blinders off and be like, okay, like, is this actually a thing, right? Do you feel like there's actually a problem with racism and violence within the police department?
No.
Do you think these are all, I guess, offshoots? Do you think it's just the media not covering properly, like not telling you the whole story?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of trying to get the story out first without having all the facts, and a skewed perception of a very brief moment of a complex situation being portrayed that fits a narrative and portrayed over and over when it's not the norm, and it's not sometimes not even what that case may look like at that given point. So, maybe even so, each of these ones that we see are such a rare event in the total
of your job.
Of our job. So you're seeing a tiny little fraction, and then even within those, you're seeing a fraction of that actual call and response. So you're kind of just fed what you're wanted to see, and then left to make a decision on the entire case of what you just saw in that moment. And then when further information comes out, it's not as widely publicized, and you don't get to the chance to
you don't get your chance to like.
Yeah, and there's nothing like the first impression too. When you develop such a strong opinion on what you saw first, a lot of people aren't willing to accept facts that come
Afterwards,
after,
right?
They either are going to look at that like, oh, they're trying to cover it up, or it's like, no, this is just, we're all trying to figure this thing out, and you're getting cell phone video that's sent and the news media gets a hold of it. You're seeing the cell phone video and the investigators didn't even get to see that yet sometimes. Yeah. So how are we supposed to get all the facts when you're seeing it before anybody's even been able to get to ask questions or,
So, you're saying like this is like the minority of the things that happen. Like earlier you were mentioning like you get a call that somebody just somebody just killed their father or
what day did he say? So yesterday, yeah. First call out of the gate, mother.
So you clock in.
Yeah, I'm changing, and the radio's playing in the station. You know, so you hear. So that way, if you're in the station and you don't have your radio on, you can still hear what's going on. And got a man down in the kitchen's residence, RP, which is reporting party, stating her husband is down in the kitchen, saying her son killed him. He's there, and then in the background, she's yelling at the son, "Why'd you kill him? Why'd you kill him?" Officers show up. Dad's in the kitchen, face down.
Did you show up or just?
No, I was still. Okay. So I'm getting dressed. Like, oh crap, I need to get out here. So we're heading out. They canceled the briefing to get, and these are graveyard shifts. They were just about to get off shifts, and now they're going to this.
Who did you piss off that you're working graveyard?
No, I'm day shift.
You are.
Yeah,
okay.
They're stuck now on this call. So then we're rushing out there to try to back them up, and then just speaking to them after, when they show up on scene, the son's just standing on the back patio, stoic and as cool as a cucumber, like another day.
Just okay. Okay
no
with the consequences.
Yeah, and Dad's there, dead, in the kitchen. Mom's freaking out. So my role in that whole thing ultimately was I started heading over to the call, and they send me back to stand by with wife, whose husband's now deceased. and stand by with her till she can be interviewed from detectives. And
how long does that last?
She probably waited there because the thing is, detectives or even in law enforcement in general, we don't like to talk to somebody and ask questions until we already kind of have all the facts. So like, if you have a detective talking to you and asking you a question, they probably already know the answer, and they just want to hear your response to it to get that on paper. So it took a while sitting there with her and just waiting till they can gather all the facts that they have at the time before. She wasn't a suspect or anything like that. But, you know, just in general, before talking to anybody, to know what questions to ask, you have to have the information.
Yeah.
Right? So if I go and ask you right off the bat, I ask you, and then I start going and looking at the scene. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't ask her about that. I didn't know about this. You know, so it was quite a few, probably at least an hour and a half, 2 hours, just sitting with her until he came in, spoke to her the initial time. He left for a while.
And you're still there?
I'm still there. And then he came back, talked to her again. So there's times where, you know, then you'll go back and talk to other detectives and go over everything because you want to make sure you get, homicide is the biggest crime that can be committed, right? So
more than catalytic converters stolen?
It's like right there.
Because that cost me $3,000.
Yeah. So, you know, you really have to make sure.
Didn't cost her anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Social Security check or
maybe.
But
the funerals might be expensive. Yeah.
But so it was a long process. Each interview is a long process.
And so that's takes your shift a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Then what's next?
Wait for the next call.
Yeah, and what's your next call?
Would I get the next call on that one? Oh, I don't even remember. It just called a call. I don't know. It all blurs together. At the end of a day, I can't remember the calls I went to.
How many calls do you get a night, more or less?
I would say I probably respond to 40.
Oh my God.
40, 50 a day.
Oh my God. What?
Yeah, but a lot of them are, you know, just nonsense.
Like what?
I mean, burglary alarms. People's burglary alarm going off. Vehicle thefts, domestic violence. Not that those are nonsense, but those are some of the most common calls that we'll get. Suspicious subjects wandering around, homeless people in the area that people want shooed away, just stuff like that.
And so, you know, it's funny because you said like, oh, you know, burglary calls like this, it's not like those, like, at least for me, right? I remember where I used to live, different place in Long Beach. Somebody kept trying to open up my garage, right? Don't know how they did it, but they were opening up my garage and they stole a bike, right? And my first reaction is like, I got to call the police, right? But definitely when the police came, they definitely did not look like excited about this, you know? And I get it, because what are you going to do?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so how do you manage going through a dude just killed his dad, no remorse, and then your next call is somebody opened up my garage and took my bike?
Right.
Like, we have this thing called content switching, right? Where I'm working on a project or typing some sort of thing out, and then somebody reaches out to me via email or through instant message, and now I have to focus my attention on that, right?
Right.
And I think that's a big deal. That's a hell of a content switch from murder to somebody stole a bike to possible suspect robbed liquor store.
Right.
How do you deal with like that kind of shit?
I guess you just have to show up to each call kind of like with a clean slate. And
yeah. How do you do that?
I don't know.
How do you deal with, like, I just dealt with a murder to, you know, somebody's asking me to kick these homeless people out of their business.
I guess for me, just because it's not, none of them are personal to me. So it's all a beginning and end to each call. Okay, so I have my portion of this call, of this homicide, and I'm gonna fulfill my portion until my obligation here is, and I can move on to the next, and then respond to the next one with no. I'm not bringing the other one over.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you that your stolen bike's not important because this has nothing to do with you. Your bike was stolen, and this is the biggest thing for you today.
Yeah.
This is the most important thing for you right now. And I'm not here to tell you like your bike's not important because this person's husband was just murdered.
Mm-hmm.
You're calling for a service that we provide as well, right? To property crimes and person crimes, we provide service for all that. So I'm not. It's all a job, and I'm gonna do what I can on this call.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's interesting.
Well, why do you like it?
Well, I mean,
What attracts you to it?
well,
Because it
imagine,
seems like I mean, I'll be honest with you. Besides the fact that you can just turn on your lights and run a red light to go have lunch, it sounds pretty crazy, shitty job.
it's
In that
really-
sense, like
yeah.
you're dealing with some crazy shit.
But I mean, okay, so like if you're driving by and you see crime scene tape or something like that, what, do you want to go in there and see what's going on? Do you want to be nosy, right?
Yeah.
I get to. Like I get to know what's going on with all this stuff, and it's like, it's the curiosity that we have. An accident, everybody wants to rubberneck and see, and I'm right there in the front scenes, and not that it's like enjoyable in the sense, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's not the best things to see all the time. It's sometimes the worst of humanity, but it's interesting.
Do you ever get to see like the best in humanity in that field?
Yeah, I mean,
Let's do like a little five questions and stuff like that. What's the coolest thing that you've experienced being a police officer?
oh God, the coolest thing.
Yeah, like feel good moments, like a Good Samaritan. Guy robbed a liquor store, tripped on a banana peel.
I don't know. For me, and I don't know, maybe this isn't the right answer you're looking for, but the thing I love, when kids wave, everything like that stuff is what I love. So I love doing the Read Across Americas and the school fairs and like the career fairs. For me, that's like the high point that is
When
like,
the kid asks, like, "Can I do the siren?"
Yeah, I love
that was me.
that shit.
I love that shit. Yeah,
I love bringing. We've been doing a lot of drive-by birthdays this time because the kids are stuck at home and they want to have a birthday party, and we'll bring as long as time permits, we'll bring like 6 patrol cars. One time we brought a bunch of the motorcycle. Those guys were available, so they came and we let the kids sit on the motorcycle and turn the siren on, come climb in the car, and we've been doing all these drive-by birthdays, and then I just love that stuff. Like that's the high. Kids are the highlight of humanity. They're so innocent. They just when they wave when I drive by, I love that stuff.
And on a darker note, what's the shittiest thing you've ever seen?
Oh man, probably just like all the suicides. People. I mean,
is it suicides or murders that are the worst?
Oh, okay, yeah. So one we had not too long ago, last year. The husband came home, opened the garage, coming home from work, and saw his 2 kids dead on the floor.
Fuck.
And came into the house, found his wife incapacitated but still alive on the floor, and she was suffering from postpartum depression and killed both of her kids. And she had made a video for him describing why she did it. So she survived. And but obviously she's gonna probably be in prison the rest of her life.
Right.
So he lost his entire family in one day. One was a baby, and then the other one was an autistic girl. Or was she was I think she was autistic, but she was a little bit older. And then learning the details from the mom of how her death occurred was mortifying because she physically
strangled her,
and at first it didn't work because the girl fought for long enough, and then the girl thanked her for not killing her. But she came back later and finished the job when she had enough strength.
And how do you, like, when stuff like that happens and you get called on something like that, do you take like a breather? Or like, hey, you know what? Or next call.
Next call.
You don't think that's a problem? Ryan, that's some hardcore shit, man. You don't think that you should be taking a break, kind of processing that?
There's calls holding. There's no break.
Fuck, man. That's some heavy shit.
Right.
Okay, on a lighter note, I'm not even sure if you can say this, but do police have quotas for tickets?
No.
Are you lying?
No. I haven't written a traffic ticket.
Grab your headphone if
I haven't written a traffic ticket in probably...
Is that a big deal to cops at all?
No, we have traffic enforcement officers who they're assigned to traffic.
Do they have quotas?
They don't have a quota, but I mean, obviously they're going to be a lot heavier on...
Because that's their job.
Because that's their focus. And they're looking... And the whole purpose, and they focus on what we have determined. Because every time we take a traffic collision, we look at the primary collision factor, the PCF, right? Mm-hmm. What was the primary collision factor that caused this? And that's what they're looking for when they're out there doing enforcement action, is if we've noticed that a lot of the fatal accidents have been caused by unsafe turning movements, then they're going to really focus on these areas and look for people performing unsafe turning movements, because we want to keep people safe, and we want to reduce fatal accidents. That's the primary goal, is to reduce all accidents, but fatal accidents especially.
Not to give you guys new badges, brand new freaking uniforms?
No.
Okay. For somebody who lives in a hot neighborhood like North Long Beach, like myself, right? If I get pulled over, what would be the best advice on how to react to getting pulled over in my interaction with a police officer?
I mean, it's the same for any neighborhood, hot or not. Just, pull over. I would recommend just shut the car off. Roll the windows down first. All the windows, shut the car off. Hands on the steering wheel.
Once I didn't roll the windows off, cop got pissed.
Especially if you got tinted windows. Yeah, which is already, well, if it's back windows, it's fine. But just for comfort, just to show them like, hey, look, I'm...
Yeah, what, I guess, that's what I'm saying. Like, what kind of neutralizes the situation?
That's what would make me feel comfortable. Because, like, if you got tinted back windows and all this and I can't see in, I'm already kind of uncomfortable. Who's back here? What's going on? So if you just roll the windows down, shut all the car windows off. Yeah. I mean, if you got clear back windows, then it's not a big deal. But if you got tinted back windows, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
And, just be respectful, and, you don't...
What do you mean by respectful?
I mean,
I can't call you a pig. Like, what's up, pig? Why are you pulling me over?
I'm always yes. I mean, just maybe the military stuff in me. I'm always yes sir, yes ma'am.
Okay.
Yes or no ma'am. Just a...
Question. So, like, most of the time, like, everybody has their stuff in their glove compartment, the driver's license or registration and all that stuff.
Right.
Do you recommend that? Like, what I did is I started doing is I bought this cool little thing that goes on the what do you call that? The
visor?
Yeah, the visor. So, like, if I ever get pulled over, it's just like, hey, like that. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
we're not going to shoot you because you reach into the glove box for your...
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other tips? Why do police officers love to pull people over one light being out from their license plate?
The vehicle code.
You're a dick. I'm trying to think of what other shit people would want to know about being pulled over and all that stuff. I don't know. Like, the one thing that gives me happiness and stuff like that, and why sometimes it is hard for me to hear people talk a lot of shit, is because at least the police officers that I know are fucking outstanding dudes. You know what I mean? So at least it gives me pride and hope to know that there's definitely some good people out there. You know what I mean? I don't work where you work. I don't know exactly what it is, but at least it does make me happy that there's people out there doing the right thing. And the one thing I've known for you as a human being is that you actually do care about people a lot, you know? And the fact that you're there doing that, making a difference. And it actually makes me really happy to know that, and that's why I reach out to you, like, dude, like, it's shit crazy, that you have support from your community. Yeah. And I really do hope that things change. Instead of people saying, fuck cops, I instead hope that people that have a problem with it want to be involved in it, you know, because there may be some communities where shit's bad,
sure,
you know, but I hope that instead of people just being on Twitter saying shit, that people try to make a difference and people want to become police officers, you know? So, you know, what's that saying, that be the change you want to
see in the world? Yeah,
whatever, you know, because that's really how it is, right?
Right.
If you don't like it, get involved.
Fix it,
you know? It's a good thing. I learned a lot from you today. Stuff that I didn't know. And I'm not sure if you're now more of a mystery, just because like seeing like kind of like where you started versus like where you're at. Like, I don't know how you do it, bro. I don't know how you do it, how you've been doing it. But I'm very appreciative, and I feel that the streets are a little safer with you out there, man. And if you can get me a good deal on a catalytic converter, I'm not wink.
Yeah.
You know,
got some of the evidence logged here. Yeah.
No, but dude, I think this is amazing, man, and I appreciate you so much. Cheers, brother.
Cheers.